The first time she lifted her trembling hands in that crowded cafe, the room did not notice her at all, but fate did. The air was thick with clattering plates, impatient footsteps, and the quiet exhaustion of people chasing their own lives. In the corner, under soft yellow lights, a shy waitress with tired eyes signed gently to an elderly woman who could not hear the chaos around her. What followed would break open a billionaire's carefully guarded world and leave an entire room drowning in tears. Before this story unfolds further, take a second. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human connection, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today. Comment your thoughts and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that humanity still exists, often in the most unexpected places. Her name was Lina, and invisibility had become her armor. She moved through the cafe like a shadow, apologizing with her eyes before anyone complained, shrinking herself so she would not disturb the world that never seemed to notice her anyway. Life had trained her to stay quiet. Raised in a small apartment with a deaf grandmother who taught her sign language before she taught her how to read, Lina learned early that words were not always spoken. Her grandmother used to say that hands could carry more truth than mouths ever could. When illness took her grandmother away, sign language remained the one part of Lina's childhood that still felt alive. Now, at 24, Lina worked double shifts at a high-end cafe she could barely afford to eat in. The customers were powerful people in tailored suits, their voices confident, their laughter sharp. Lina carried their orders, cleaned their tables, and absorbed their indifference. She had dreams once, of becoming an interpreter, of helping people who lived in silence feel seen. But dreams were expensive, and survival always came first. That afternoon, the cafe manager had warned the staff about a very important guest. No mistakes, no delays, no distractions. Lina nodded like she always did, though anxiety tightened her chest. She was used to being blamed even when things were not her fault. The woman arrived quietly, escorted by a suited assistant. She was elegant, silver-haired, her posture fragile yet dignified. While the assistant spoke to her loudly, exaggerating words as if volume could replace understanding, the woman smiled politely, but her eyes were lost. Lina noticed immediately. It was the familiar look of someone surrounded by sound but trapped in silence. Without thinking, Lina approached. Her hands moved instinctively, forming careful signs she had not used in years outside her own memories. The woman's face changed in an instant. Confusion melted into shock, then relief, then something dangerously close to tears. Her hands responded, slow but clear, grateful beyond words. The cafe seemed to pause around them. For the first time since her grandmother's death, Lina felt fully present, fully useful. She explained the menu, asked about allergies, recommended tea that soothed the stomach. The elderly woman nodded, her smile growing warmer with every sign. She touched Lina's hand lightly, a gesture of trust that made Lina's throat ache. What Lina did not know was that the woman was the mother of one of the richest men in the country, a billionaire whose name dominated business headlines, whose reputation was carved from steel and strategy, a man known for efficiency, not emotion. And he was watching. From across the cafe, he observed the interaction with growing unease. He had spent millions ensuring his mother was comfortable, protected, surrounded by staff. Yet none of that had given her what this trembling waitress offered freely, understanding. He saw his mother laugh silently, her eyes bright in a way he had not seen in years. Something inside him shifted, something he had buried beneath boardrooms and balance sheets. When he stood and approached, the room felt suddenly smaller. Lina noticed him too late. Her hands froze mid-sign. Fear rushed in, sharp and familiar. She assumed she had broken a rule, overstepped a boundary. Important people did not like waitresses doing unexpected things. The manager rushed over, face pale. Apologies spilled out before accusations even formed. Lina's heart pounded. She stared at the floor, already preparing herself for dismissal, humiliation, another reminder of her place. But the billionaire did not look angry. He looked undone. He watched his mother sign slowly to him, her movements emotional, urgent. She described how Lina spoke to her without sound, how she felt seen, respected, human. The billionaire listened, really listened, perhaps for the first time in a long while. His throat tightened. Memories surfaced of his childhood, of his mother struggling in a world that refused to slow down for her silence, of his own frustration and helplessness as a boy who could not fix everything. He turned to Lina, studying her as if seeing her for the first time. Not as staff, not as background, but as someone who carried something rare. Lina expected anger. Instead, she saw tears gather in his eyes. The cafe was silent now. Every customer, every worker sensed that something extraordinary was unfolding. The billionaire reached into his pocket, pulled out a card, and placed it gently on the table. He did not raise his voice. He did not threaten. He simply asked the manager to give them privacy. Lina's hands shook as she signed again, apologizing, explaining that she only wanted to help. Her entire life had trained her to justify her existence. The billionaire shook his head slowly. His mother reached out and held Lina's hands, pressing them to her heart. The message was clear without words. Gratitude, recognition, love. That day did not end with applause or dramatic announcements. Lina finished her shift, numb and confused. She went home to her small room, replaying every moment, convinced she had imagined the softness in the billionaire's eyes. 3 days later, her life changed. She received a call asking her to visit a private office downtown. Her first instinct was fear, but curiosity pushed her forward. The building was glass and steel, intimidating in its perfection. Lina felt out of place, her worn shoes echoing against polished floors. Inside the office, the billionaire waited with his mother. This time, there was no audience, no pressure, just truth. He explained that his mother had not slept well since that afternoon. Not because of discomfort, but because of emotion. She had not stopped signing Lina's name, describing the warmth she felt, the dignity she had been given. For years, she had been surrounded by helpers who did not truly understand her world. Lina had crossed that barrier without being asked. The offer was simple but life-altering. A full scholarship to study sign language interpretation professionally, a salaried position as his mother's personal communication assistant while she studied, medical coverage, housing assistance, time to dream again. Lina cried silently, her shoulders shaking as years of suppressed hope broke free. She tried to refuse, convinced she did not deserve such generosity. The billionaire's mother signed gently, reminding her that kindness was not something to be repaid, but passed on. Training was hard. Lina doubted herself constantly. She struggled with academic language, with formal structures far removed from the emotional signing she grew up with. Old insecurities resurfaced. But every time she faltered, the billionaire's mother was there, patient and encouraging, signing stories of her own struggles, reminding Lina that silence had never meant weakness. The billionaire watched their bond grow from a distance. He saw his mother come alive, more confident, more expressive. He saw Lina stand taller, speak with her hands more boldly, reclaim pieces of herself she thought were lost forever. Slowly, something in him softened too. He began to understand that wealth had insulated him from the simplest truths. That connection could not be bought, only earned. Months passed. Lina graduated at the top of her program. She began advocating for accessibility within the billionaire's companies, pushing for inclusive communication systems. Employees noticed. Policies changed. The ripple effect spread further than anyone anticipated. One evening, at a charity event focused on disability inclusion, Lina stood beside the billionaire's mother, interpreting her speech to a room filled with powerful figures. Her hands moved confidently, gracefully. Her eyes shone. She was no longer invisible. The billionaire watched from the front row, tears openly streaming down his face. He realized that the greatest investment he had ever made was not in technology or real estate, but in a human being who had been overlooked by the world. As the event concluded, the room erupted in a standing ovation, not for wealth, not for status, but for understanding. If this story is touching your heart even a little, if it's reminding you of someone you've overlooked or a kindness you've delayed, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and let your engagement spread this message further. Stories like this survive because people choose to carry them forward. Before we end, we have a special request for you. Comment below with the word "seen" if you believe that every human deserves to be understood, no matter how quiet their voice may be. Lina still visits the cafe sometimes, not as a waitress, but as a reminder to herself of where she began. She tips generously, signs warmly to anyone who needs it, and never forgets that one small act of courage changed her entire life. And somewhere between a trembling pair of hands and a mother who lived in silence, a billionaire learned that the loudest truths are often spoken without sound.